So the internet is talking about young men being radicalized into the alt-right, and there have been some takes that suggest that women aren't empathetic enough to these young men and should have empathy for them. And I'm going to weigh in here. I think that the radicalization of young men is being incubated in households where toxic masculinity is both modeled by fathers and shielded by maternal overcompensation. Women already do give men empathy. In fact, I'd argue that toxic masculinity is being fed by the excessive empathy that boys receive growing up. They're watching their dad degrade their mom, emotionally withdraw, or control their household with anger. This models dominance, entitlement, and emotional avoidance as normal male behavior. And boys learn early on that power equals control and vulnerability equals weakness. That brings us to the concept of boy moms. And it seems to me that there are a lot of boy moms who coddle their sons. And that's not because they're bad moms, but because they're trying to protect them. They're trying to protect them from growing up like their dad. The same dad that mistreats her, shuts down emotionally, and controls the house with his silence or rage. It becomes a survival tactic in a patriarchal home. The mother and son form a quiet alliance against the toxic father figure. But this team dynamic often exempts the boy from any accountability, emotional maturity, or even empathy toward women outside of the home. These boys watch their mom get hurt and try to love their way out of it. And their mom, she pours everything into making sure that he won't turn out like his father. Women already give boys and men empathy, and sometimes too much of it. This empathy becomes enabling, especially when it's used to justify bad behavior instead of challenging it. When women try to love boys into better men, they absorb the emotional labor of reforming someone who is actively benefiting from a harmful system. And there's a huge double standard between how young boys are treated and how young girls are treated. Boys are handed empathy like candy, while girls are told to regulate everyone else's emotions. Girls are held to standards of emotional regulation and empathy from a young age. Be nice, share, don't cry too much. Whereas boys, boys will be boys. He just has a lot of energy. He's sensitive, don't upset him. It creates an unequal emotional playing field where boys are rewarded for minimal empathy and girls are punished for not being endlessly nurturing. When boys are taught that they're the victim, they grow into men who think that they're oppressed. Boys raised by mothers who tried to save them from their father often internalize a narrative that they're different or better than other men. Then, when women in the world hold them to account, they feel betrayed. This makes them highly susceptible to the rhetoric of male grievance pushed by alt-right influencers. Fathers create the blueprint, mothers reinforce it, often unintentionally. It's the whole patriarchal system that's to blame here, not one or the other. It all works together to create what is being created. And it's not about blaming moms. It's about recognizing the emotional trap that patriarchy puts them in. Patriarchy doesn't just harm women, it uses them to uphold itself through internalized roles like emotional caretaker, peacekeeper, or fixer. And that same system tells boys, you're special, you're powerful, the world is against you, so take what you deserve. So no, women not being nice enough isn't what's pushing boys to the alt-right. What is pushing them there? It's a system that tells them they're entitled to power, and women are supposed to cushion the fall when the world tells them no. Who is teaching young boys that empathy is a two-way street? And what happens when the only person holding a boy emotionally is the one also being mistreated by the boy's male role model? And why are we still asking women to show more empathy when they've already been socialized to give too much?